Hey everyone, this is Anna. Welcome back. This week I am so excited to be a guest tutorial author at Splitcoaststampers. I will be showing you how I made this winter themed Christmas card. For a list of supplies, please check out the video description below. The majority of the background is made using alcohol inks. So the first thing you will see me doing here is applying some regular rubbing alcohol with a brush to the background. And then just starting to add all the different colors that I'm using. The first one you saw there is called Pool. The second one is called Turquoise. And then I add some of the mixatives as well. The first one there is called Silver. And then I use Snow Cap. So this background is made in different layers. You will see me adding and then spreading it with a brush, which is, by the way, soaked in regular rubbing alcohol. And it's all about layers and layers and layers. You wait maybe a few seconds in between to allow it to dry a little bit, but then you're free to add some more. And there's really no right or wrong with alcohol inks. That's what I love about them, that no two backgrounds will ever look exactly the same, but they are all beautiful. So don't be afraid if whenever you try this, some of your colors are a little bit darker or brighter. It doesn't matter. It will still look great at the end. And by the way, the paper I'm using here is called Yupo paper, which is a great medium for use with alcohol inks. So in the next few shots, you will see me moving the Yupo paper around just to allow the wet ink to move freely on the surface. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, just keep on adding layers. And the last layer of alcohol inks, I am adding a little bit more of the snow cap. I wanted it to resemble a very snowy background. So I left it aside for about 15 minutes and then I added a little bit of heat with my heat tool. Just be careful not to add too much heat because the paper can melt. And it still felt a little tacky, so I went ahead and just went over with my fingers to remove some of the excess moisture. Now I'm ready for the next step. So I will be using alcohol lift ink re-inker just to ink some of these gorgeous trees from the trees stamp set from Inka Dinka Doo. And I will be doing a type of lift ink technique, but I'm not looking for the very details in the stamp. I'm just wanting to create more like a background shadow for my trees. And the way to do that is after you stamp, you get a piece of paper towel, kind of blot it in first, and then you're able to rub any excess and you get this really cool ghost effect in the background. Like I said, the way I applied it is just to create a shadow behind the trees, not specifically to get the very details of the trees. For the details, I am actually stamping with Gina K ink in black, and I'm kind of shifting a little bit to the side. That way you can still see a little bit of shadow that I just created with the lift ink in the background. One thing to remember when you're stamping on Yupo paper, since it's very slick, make sure to stamp straight down and lift straight up to avoid any shifting in the image. And here I apply a little bit more heat to heat set the image, since I will be adding a little bit more snow on top of these trees using some alcohol blending solution and a little bit more of that snow cap mixative. So the way you do that is mix the two, and with a brush just kind of sprinkle all around the card, and then you will get this really fine little snowflakes which look very beautiful. I'm also using the mixative in gunmetal and I am using a brush that was soaked in regular rubbing alcohol, and I used this one to create a ground to level all of my trees. And I really like the effect that this gives. Almost it could be a reflection on a frozen lake maybe, or you can also view it as some little more snowbanks. So it's kind of fun to leave it up to the viewers to kind of imagine whatever they want from that image. I thought it was a really cool effect. So once again, I use my heat tool to set that, and now I'm ready to work on my sentiment, which I'm using Merry Christmas from this Altenew set. I'm using regular cardstock for this. This is Nina Solar White, and once again, I'm using Gina Case ink. And to color the background on that white cardstock, I wanted it to match the background, so I'm using the Pool alcohol ink that I used previously and just adding it with a brush. Originally I thought of doing something to the side of that sentiment, but soon you will see me that I choose just to cut it short and just add the sentiment by itself. So it was really fun coloring with alcohol ink. I've never really colored regular cardstock with it, but I really like the effect, and especially with a brush it creates a really nice texture. And I added a little bit more rubbing alcohol to the glass mat just so I could mix the color a little better into that white background. And to add a little bit more of this distressed look, I decided to tear the edges of the sentiment. And I will also bend the sentiment a little bit before I adhere it, just to give it even an extra dimension. Now I'm ready to cut this panel slightly smaller than my card base, which is a regular A2 size card. And I am using Nina White, Solar White for that card base. And there you see me adding some foam tape to the background just to create a little bit more dimension. And now I'm ready to also adhere the sentiment, which also has some foam tape, and I bend it a little bit so it could have a really nice scroll-like dimension. One of my favorite embellishments to use is glaze, which I have added to this needle tip applicator bottle, and it is perfect to apply to small areas such as sentiments. And it also works really well, as you will see here in a few seconds, to adhere small embellishments such as sequins. This particular sequence I'm using is by Pretty Pink Posh. And that was the last step to finish this card. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and that you give it a try. And don't forget to check out the tutorial at Splitcoaststampers for more detailed pictures of the tutorial. Take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you next time.